Hi, I'm Tammy.
Welcome to Sips for Change.
Martine, do you have your beverage?
Yep. And you can buy happiness, but you can buy coffee, so it's pretty close.
I don't drink coffee, but I love various types of teas. So I'm totally with you there. I am drinking an iced tea today, and it definitely feels like happiness in a cup. Now, for our audience, depending on the time zone that you're in, where you're tuning in from, and what you're craving, grab some tea, coffee, or even a glass of wine, owner's choice, and let us chat about sustainable events.
Tammy, you used the phrase sustainable events. So, can you tell everyone a bit more about what that actually means and what defines a sustainable event?
Of course, a sustainable event is one that is designed, organized, and executed in a way that minimizes the negative environmental impacts and promotes positive impact in terms of social and economic outcomes. This requires us to consider various elements of event planning, execution to ensure that the event is aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals.
So, the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are 17 big picture objectives that the United Nations set up in 2015. They focus on tackling some of the world's biggest issues by 2030, like poverty, inequality, climate change, and environmental damage, while also promoting peace and justice. So each goal has specific targets to measure how we're doing and to help create a sustainable future for everyone.
Thank you so much for summarizing that so well, Martine. It's clearly very important for us to focus on peace and justice, but can you also elaborate a little bit more on why event planners should focus on the environmental and social alignment with these goals?
Of course, so focusing on the environmental and social alignment with this goal is critical for events because some events can actually have a large carbon footprint and potentially have negative impacts on the planet and local communities. Take the example of fireworks. Being mindful about how events affect the community in which it is hosted in, planners can reduce waste, support biodiversity, even cut down on carbon emissions, and promote inclusivity and social responsibility. So it's really not just about being green, it's about setting a positive example and creating events that are responsible and impactful. And on top of that, aligning with these goals can enhance an event's reputation and appeal to attendees and partners who care about sustainability.
I love that you use fireworks as an example because I personally love them, but I would happily replace them with something else, like a drone display or something, because it's just so invasive to the community. And not only does it leave toxic particles in the air that are harmful for humans and animals to breathe, it also stresses out both wild and domesticated animals and causing them to act erratically. There's actually a really good article on this topic that we'll share in the resources after this so that you can read more about it. That being said, we understand that all of our audience members can be at various stages in their event planning sustainable journey. And this is an intro video after all. So let's take a few minutes to chat through various event areas that planners can consider when making events more sustainable.
So, venues are such a big component of an event. Tell me, what are some ways venue ties into the Sustainable Development Goals?
We all know that events can range from 10 people to hundreds and thousands of people. So it's obviously important for us to consider venues because there's a big difference when you're talking about large scale events. For example, a venue that uses renewable energy and has efficient systems that helps reduce emissions and supports clean energy, that is SDG 7 and SDG 13. Additionally, venues that manage waste well, like having recycling and composting options, are pushing for responsible consumptions. That is SDG 12.
Yeah, and I know event planners have a long list of factors when considering venues. So it's great to know these can and should be added to the list when thinking about being sustainable. These are more environmental based, and earlier we mentioned that sustainability has a social implications as well, right? So, what's an example of one?
Yeah, absolutely. Accessibility is a big one when we discuss social impacts of events. Going back to venues, venues can be designed to be inclusive for everyone with various level of abilities, and that helps reduce inequalities, which aligns with SDG 10.
Yeah, thank you, Tammy. And I know we're touching upon this very quickly, but don't worry, we'll have future episodes dedicated to diving deeper into these topics areas, along with case studies and guest speakers.
So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned to these future chats. So thank you so much for keeping us honest and on time, Martine. I obviously can talk about this for hours, so I'm glad you're keeping us on track. But that being said, there are many things that we can consider when selecting a venue. Without diving too much into that right now, since we'll have another chat on that really in the future, I want to note some other areas in terms of the accessibility of the space, such as how close it is to transportation, whether it's wheelchair accessible, and does it provide locally sourced catering, and etc. Like we said, we're going to have a whole separate chat dedicated to that later. So for now, let's use this as a segue over to the other things inside a venue, such as technology. Martine, what are some things that you can talk about technology and its role in sustainable events?
Thank you, Tammy. So, as a little geek, I love that topic, honestly. So, technology can significantly enhance the event sustainability by reducing the need for physical resources and optimizing operations. So, for example, we saw this during the pandemic, right? So, where travel was restricted, there was a surge of virtual and hybrid events. And we should continue to consider this as it significantly reduced travel emissions. And there are plenty of webinar and online meeting platforms that make virtual events more efficient and inclusive now compared to 5-10 years ago. And cherry on the cake, we are also seeing the development of a lot of different event management apps, which reduce the use of paper tickets, ads, and programs.
That's so true. And taking that event management piece a step further, we've started to also see different technology that has been developed to support event planners in monitoring their carbon footprint as well. For instance, there are technologies that weigh leftover food to gauge the carbon emissions of food waste. There are systems in place and technology in place that optimizes and monitors energy and water usage at venues as well.
Yeah, and for some events, the venue selection may be out of the hands of the planners, which may also mean that those venue-based technologies may be out of reach for some. So Tammy, can we chat about some things that are more in the planner's control?
Of course. My favorite part about designing events is the food and beverage because I'm such a foodie. I a lot of food is wasted at events, whether it's during transportation, catering prep, leftover from the actual event. Food waste is one of the biggest carbon footprints when it comes to the life cycle of an event because of the food production process, like I just mentioned, and mostly the consumption and then deposition into landfills after the events as well.
Yeah, I really don't think many people realize that aspect of food waste, and I can't wait to dive deeper into that conversation one day. But Tammy, that being said, what are some other event design aspects you'd like to highlight?
So when we discuss event design, we're obviously talking about the various event experiences for an attendee, which includes decor, branding, signage, and giveaways. All of these are major aspects of an event planner's budget and decision making, which means that an event planner has a lot more flexibility to vet and source vendors that meet their particular visions and guidelines when it comes to a sustainable event. Therefore, it's super important for our planners to practice sustainable sourcing and really understand the full picture of the supply chain and the labor implications when it comes to working with these vendors.
Yeah, and this sounds like great areas to explore for a planner. So how do we keep track of all these vendors and what is the process like when vetting partners?
Yeah, it's definitely very important to have company-wide policies and that encourage those standards at your events so that you can communicate them across both internal and external teams. There are plenty of industry associations that we have that provides templates and checklists. We can go through some of those examples in our future chat. However, more importantly, I think we should highlight the key role of data and metrics that makes this whole planning process valuable.
Yeah, I really agree because as any event planners know, key performance indicators are a must in measuring an event success. So like Tammy said, there are many templates available through the Events Industry Council and various other organizations on goal setting and analytics. But there also have been specific tools that have been created to focus on an event's carbon footprint. And these calculators come in various formats and help us track emissions. There are also tools that conduct waste audits, which measures how much waste we divert from landfills through recycling and composting. Energy consumption reports keep tabs on our energy use, and we can gather attendee feedback with surveys to see how effective our initiatives are. So now that's an area we haven't discussed yet, the attendees. So we obviously are hosting these even for the attendees. It only makes sense to include them in some way too, right? So how do you get attendees to join in on your sustainability efforts?
I love this part because it's one of my favorite things about events, the attendees experience. So it's really making sure that their experience is meaningful, but we want to make sure also that this is how we start a domino effect, right? Because we want to focus on educating our attendees first. So we share information about our sustainability efforts with them and why they matter. And then we could also potentially offer incentives and rewards like using public transportation to get to our event or bringing their own reusable items like water bottles. We also include interactive elements like recycling competitions or sustainability workshops. And of course, all of this is communicated effectively through signs, announcements, app notifications, things like that. So that not only are they experiencing it firsthand through the event, but they're also learning about ways that they can incorporate this into their daily lives too.
Yeah, and I love that paying it forward mentality because our attendees can not only apply their learning to their lives, but also become sustainability champions and pass along what they've learned from our events to others and expanding the impact even more.
Absolutely. However, I know that all of that sounds well and dandy, but we personally know through experience and also our industry peers know that all of this is easy to talk about, but there are serious challenges when it comes to implementation and execution. Do you want to highlight some of those for us, Martine?
Yeah, of course, Tammy. So cost can be a big one since sustainable options can be pricier. So honestly, we tackle this by budgeting strategically, seeking sponsorships, and showing long-term savings. Also, awareness is another issue. So some stakeholders might not be interested. We handle this with education and clear communication of the benefits, but also logistics can get complex. So we simplify things with detailed plans and by working with experienced vendors.
That makes a lot of sense. Can you also give us some examples of events that have been successful with these practices?
Sure. Um, so we have the Olympic Games that have been great at this, as they focus on sustainability in everything from venue construction to waste management and energy use. Also, the music band Coldplay recently provided an update from the Music of the Spheres tour where they highlighted the results of their commitment to slashing their tour emissions. And we'll be featuring these case studies in a future episode. I really can't wait.
Me too. I love Coldplay. Again, we're trying not to overwhelm everyone with with all of this in one sitting. So we'll wrap it up there for today. I hope that this intro video gives you a good idea of what we have in store for you in this channel. As you heard, we have some super exciting conversations coming up, so be sure to hit follow or subscribe, and we'll meet you back here for another beverage in the coming weeks.
Thanks for sipping with us today.